Hello and welcome to the sixth and final episode of our Kubernetes in and on VCF series, which is part of Kickstart VMware Cloud Foundation project series. I'm Satya Shrestha, Senior Staff Executive Solutions Architect at VMware, and I'm excited to be joined by my colleague, Vincent Han, to wrap up this series. Vincent, thank you for partnering with me on this journey. It's been a pleasure collaborating with you. Now that we have reached the final episode, I would love to hear your thoughts on the series so far.
Sure. Hi, Satya. Thanks. I think, it's really great pleasure to work with you on this multi-part, multi-episode series, right? Really enjoy the process. We came a long way and we discover, look at multiple different components of the, previously what we called as vSphere with Tanzu stack, right? All the Tanzu components in VCF and leveraging Kubernetes to create multiple different kind of workloads, right? I think we have seen this like multiple times already. Virtual machines, TKG clusters, supervisor services. You also have data services manager in the pipeline as well. So, really happy to show the audience here how can you actually use VCF in creating all these different kind of workloads. However, I don't think we have time to cover all aspects, right? And I think one of the areas that I think maybe we should do a follow-up session, right? Maybe some other time, it's maybe, on the Entria and some of the security aspects of Kubernetes in VCF, and even maybe talk about some of the day tools aspects of using, now what we call it the vSphere IS control plane, right? Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Those network and security is always top of the mind for everyone, right? So container networking and security, would be a good topic, maybe as a bonus series for later on. Vincent, in this episode, which is the final episode, of course, we'll be exploring the integration of Aria suite with Tanzu on VMware Cloud Foundation, right?
Yes, correct.
And then we'll be diving deeper into the cloud consumption interface with Aria integration with VMware Cloud Foundation 5.2. Is that right?
Yeah. So, this is the final episode, right? So, and we plan to do the CCI, we stand for Cloud Consumption Interface with Aria. And yes. I thought this is actually between VCF 5.1 and VCF 5.2, which we just released a couple of weeks ago, right? And GA a couple of weeks ago. And I thought that I think it's a good timing. Maybe we should slot in a bonus content in this session to talk about some of the VCF 5.2 updates.
Exactly. So then let's take a quick look at the agenda for today's episode.
Sure. We will proceed with the CCI with Aria integration.
Yep.
And then we'll start talking about some of the VCF 5.2 updates, which is the main updates are actually coming in the vSphere 8.0 U3. Okay. Yeah. So I have that in the lab. I set up some demos. We'll be covering that in this session itself.
Awesome, man. Excited for all these contents. Yeah.
Okay, let's jump straight into the first topic, right?
Yep.
So consumption interface. So I think, if you are a consumer and you have been watching our videos, right? And from the interface perspective, I think the consumer are really spoiled for different interfaces that they can actually consume all these different kind of workloads from. So in our previous video, we have been always showing, the vSphere, using the vSphere client for the platform admin, for the VI admin, then, using the kubectl, CLI, they can actually create VM servers, TKC clusters, vSphere ports, etc., and things like that. So now we're going to talk about the integration with Aria automation, and it's actually using what we call the orchestrator, right? The CCI, which is a cloud consumption interface. Once you integrate it with Aria automation, you get exposed to like regions, namespaces, classes, and from the Aria automation console, you can actually consume all these different kind of workloads as well.
Exactly. Just one thing I wanted to add there is Aria automation is our VMware's automation tool, which is part of VMware Cloud Foundation, right? So if a customer has VMware Cloud Foundation, they don't need to buy separately. It's bundled together. So you could readily use Aria automation straight if you have VCF installation.
Yeah. So likely if you are really using Aria automation for your more kind of your VMs management perspective, right, for governance and things like that, then now with all the supervisor clusters, services and all this, when these are exposed, you can also use the same interface to consume all these services as well. That's the key point over here.
Yeah.
All right. So if you are observant enough, you saw that there's a local management. This local management is also part of the CCI integration, but we'll talk about it in the VCF 5.2 updates because it's only available in VCF 5.2.
Got it. Yeah.
Okay, now let's jump straight into the demo itself. I think it's easier to show you the integration with the demo.
Yeah, let's do that.
I think first thing first, let's talk about the integration. So under workload management, you will see that there's these CCI services over here. For you to use the CCI integration, you need to start installing the CCI service. So in the last video, we actually show you how you can actually install the supervisor services. So you just click on the URL, you bring to this GitHub page and select the service you want. Right? So this is the consumption interface. you download the YAML file and put it into this supervisor services area, and you have this CCI service. So if you look at the version itself, this is the 0.0. This is the first version.
Yes.
Once you install this CCI service and integrate with Aria automation, you can actually see all the supervisor cluster construct in Aria automation. Right. So let's now hop on to the Aria automation. So if you go on to Aria automation, click on service broker. So you get to have an overview of the catalog items. So if you are a user of Aria automation, this is very familiar with you, where you can actually consume your catalog items.
Yes.
Once the CCI service is integrated, there's this new menu over here called the supervisor namespaces.
Right.
So now you are able to consume all the supervisor cluster services, VM service, TKC, all from this Aria automation interface now. Okay.
Got it.
So,
and this is what we call cloud consumption interface, isn't it?
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, cloud consumption interface.
Yeah.
So now you can, I'm going to show you an example of here. Let's create a new supervisor namespace, right? And then, maybe we should name it Kubernetes in and on VCF, right?
Yeah.
So, put a name, select the region. And once you create, you can see that it's in progress. So after a while, right, Aria automations will then talk to vCenter and the supervisor services. Then you can see this in the vCenter itself. Okay, so let's now hop on to the vCenter and then see you get to see the namespace over here. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I can see that these Kubernetes in and on VCF namespaces I just created.
Excellent.
Yeah, so now you can start consuming the services. Okay, so now you have the supervisor namespace being created. Now let's hop on back to the Aria automation and click on the new namespace that we created. Yeah. So now the first thing we're going to create is probably the TKG service. So let's open up TKGS and then create a new cluster. So yeah, I'm going to use the Tanzu Kubernetes cluster API, and I'm going to do a custom configuration. Okay. Click on next. You can put a cluster name and select the release, right? So this is the release that I have. You get to select Photon or Ubuntu. I'm going to choose Ubuntu. Okay. Select the storage class. Click next. So you get to see, you can get to create how many replicas of the control plane that you want, right? 1 or 3. Just going to be at 1. And you can select the size of your control plane. So I'm going to use the best effort small. You can see that the platform admin can actually curate what kind of a VM class, right? You know, by default we have 16, and you can see this is a more curated list, right? So that's where the control and all this comes in. Maybe as a developer, I can only consume these 2 sizes of virtual machines. Okay, so now I proceed to go and configure other things. Like for example, if you want to have a persistent volume, you can add a volume. If you want to, I'm going to just leave it at this. The next thing is the worker nodes pool. Okay, so now you can say that I want to have 3 replica. I can also change the size. I want to choose medium and put a storage class where your worker nodes, which storage your worker nodes are on. Okay, so finish it and then click next. And one thing that I want you to show to you, right? You can see that as I'm clicking, you can see that they are actually building the YAML file for you. So there's actually no need for you to go and edit your own YAML file, right? So the UI can also construct into a YAML file. And it can go both ways, right? You can actually copy this out and use the CLI to go and create these clusters later on if you want to, all right?
Right.
So now you can see that the TKC clusters is being created. So I will let it create by itself. So I already have a demo, right? That is already ready. So we can click on this, the other namespace where I already have a spun up TKC cluster.
That's a different namespace you have already created, right? Which already
previously, correct? So I can open up, so you can see that this is already running, and you can, so you can see here there's this download kubeconfig file. So you click on this and you download the kubeconfig file, and then you can actually go and access your clusters. So I already download the kubeconfig file in my jump host over here, right? You can see that this kubeconfig file is over here. So so I'm going to just use kubectl to get the nodes. I can see that get access to the nodes. So from here, your developer can get a kubeconfig file and they can start consuming the clusters. All right. So that's for TKC. And all right, so now let's take a look at VM service. So you can actually create a VM from the VM service using a create VM function. I'm not going to show you over here. I'm just going to show you that one that has been created already, right? Which is this K78T. As you can see, you can click on it, and you can see that it has the IP address, and when you create a VM, you can also associate it with network services.
Yeah.
So if you click on the network services itself, you can see that I have created a load balancer with it, and I'm going to show you the login over here. I'm just going to copy this address first. So how you can actually access these VM servers that you have created in your namespace, supervisor namespace. So you have two options. One, you can actually use the web config. So you can actually say open the web config.
Yeah, web console.
Yeah, web console, sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so it says that it's been created, and you can see that, okay, you can allow it to open. You can see that the console is here.
Yes. Yeah, we can just if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just try to log in. Yep, you can log in over here.
Yeah.
Okay. And just one way to access it. The other way is because I already exposed it using a load balancer construct. I can SSH inside it, right? So I already have that. Okay, just give a minute. This is the one that I got the external IP.
Yeah, right.
So you can actually connect to it. Yeah, same VM, but now it's using SSH.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Very nice. One question I have, Vincent, one question I have here is, now this objects that's being created from the CCI, how do you know in vCenter if this has been created from CCI? Is there a way to find out which object is created from CCI or from Aria automation?
Well, I guess, if you look onto the vCenter perspective, because it's created in supervisor namespace, right? So you can see that it will be under the namespaces, right? So for example, you can see that the TKC clusters that I created previously, so it's under a supervisor namespace.
Namespace, yes.
Yeah. So if it's other workloads that's created by Aria perspective, you're probably, these are the ones, right? These are the ones that are created by Aria automation as a normal VM. You can see that it's all listed over here.
Yeah. And how about the demo VM that you showed us earlier? Can we go to that ES demo namespace?
Yeah, that's the one, right? It shows up.
Yeah. Is there a way that it says, hey, this has been created from CCI? Is there a
Well, I guess you can see that there's this developer manage icon over here. And I think if you click on this, you can see that there's no developer manage. So there's a difference. There's a difference when you create using the CCI and you create it using a normal vCenter integration. Yeah.
Excellent. So if you go to the cluster namespace once again, go to the cluster namespace.
Yep.
And then if you go to the cluster, one of the cluster.
Okay.
Yeah. Also shows the same thing, right?
Yes. Developer manage. Correct.
Very nice. Yeah.
Maybe we should do the same thing when we use the LCI, right? And see whether is it the same. Yeah.
Good stuff.
All right. So let's now talk about the VCF 5.2 updates.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So this is the bonus content. And as I mentioned, we're going to just focus on the vSphere IS control plane. So again, just to re-highlight again, when we talk about, or the runtime now is known as the vSphere IS control plane for now onwards. Okay.
vSphere IAS control plane. That's the new name.
Yes, correct.
Right. Okay.
So in this release itself, we're actually introducing independent TKG service. So this means that now the TKG service is actually decoupled from the vCenter releases. So this also means that you can now upgrade the TKG service independently from the supervisor or vCenter upgrades. Right? So previously, as you know, users itself, in order for them to get new Kubernetes version, they actually need to upgrade vCenter. And vCenter has a lot of compatibility metrics with a lot of other components. So this has always been a difficult thing to do, and therefore the consumers won't be able to get latest Kubernetes version, right? So with this, now we are able to deliver all this asynchronous release of TKG service, helping us to align much quicker to the upstream Kubernetes versions, right? So this independent TKG services will be implemented as a core supervisor service. So I'm going to show you later on in the demo itself. So now with this, admins are able to receive newer versions of Kubernetes, and then the consumer will be able to consume all these new Kubernetes versions much quicker. Yeah,
this is really good. As it is decoupled, like you said, we don't need to now wait for a new version of vCenter server to upgrade to the new version of Kubernetes clusters, right? So it gives really good autonomy to the developers or Kubernetes administrators. Yeah, this is nice.
Yep. All right, so let's take a look at this.
Excellent.
So all you need to do is, of course, you need to bring your environment to VCF 5.2. in order to use this independent TKG service. And of course, if you are using vSphere 8.0 U2 or before, you need to bring them to vCenter 8.0 U3. Okay, so once you have that installed, you can see that you have these new supervisor services being created called the Tanzu Kubernetes Grid service.
Right.
Okay, and if you go under the managed version, you can see that once you upgrade your vCenter, you will see that it comes with this embedded version, so known as TKG 3.0.
Right.
So with this, now if you log on to the CLI, let me log on to the supervisor.
Yes.
Okay, and then if you get TKR, let me make the screen smaller a bit.
So just for our viewers, this is a completely different cluster, right? The one we were showing earlier is a different cluster, and this is a VCF 5.2 cluster, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Now you can see that, when I get all the TKR release, right, you can see that you get some new release as part of these updates, but then you can see that I still do not have access to 1.30, right? This is still not, as you can see from here, it's not ready, right? So in order for us to get 1.30, what you need to do is basically upgrade the TKG service.
Right.
This doesn't require you to update the supervisor. This doesn't require you to update the vCenter. Likewise, you go and download the supervisor services. It's all under this page now. So instead of the CCI, okay, we're going to go into the TKG service. This is the one. And now we download the 3.1 TKG service. Okay.
Right.
So now once you have downloaded the YAML file, you can now start add that into this add new version. So you upload the TKG 3.10. Okay. And let me see, finish it. All right. And
manage versions. What's in manage versions?
Okay, so you can see now you have 3.1 over here, right? So let me go and activate it on the supervisor cluster. So now I can actually choose 3.1.
Right.
And click on next. Okay. Okay, so it's compatible, and I'm going to finish it. So now let's go and see what's happening. So now 3.1 is being activated now, being installed. And you can see that it's available to use in your clusters, and you should be able to see your TKRs being updated. All right, so let's now go back to the slides.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so in this release itself, we also be introducing the auto scaling for Kubernetes clusters. So this is based on the cluster auto scaler. So now you are able to scale down your worker nodes when it's underutilized, can also scale up when the demand actually increases. So this means that new worker nodes will be created when the resources are not sufficient for hot scheduling. Okay. Yeah, so you can actually install this cluster autoscaler using standard packages and using kubectl to install, or even the Tanzu CLI to install it. However, things to take note is this cluster autoscaler version must match the Kubernetes minor version. So this means that, for example, if your Kubernetes cluster is on 1.26.5, you need to have cluster autoscaler 1.26.2.
All right.
And the minimum version to use this cluster autoscaler is version 1.25.
So how does the autoscaler work? Is there a threshold that you specify? If it's like this much of threshold for some resource consumption, it automatically add one worker node, and if threshold is below this, remove the autoscaler. What is the logic?
Yeah, so it's correct. It's based on threshold, and you will scale up automatically. And if there's the demand reduces, it will actually scale back in again.
Okay.
Yeah. So now let's take a look at vSAN stretch cluster support. So as you know, this is one of the most requested feature to have supervisor clusters as well as TKC support on vSAN stretch clusters. So now we have it. You are able to provide high availability across two sites, active, site A and site B, for supervisor as well as control plane.
Right.
Yeah, however, there's a few things to take note. As you know, etcd is the database for Kubernetes, keeping all the configuration and all this kind of thing. They actually use a quorum-based mechanism, which means that you need to have half of the replicas being active at one time. So if you look at it, right, it has no real benefit by spreading the etcd nodes, which is the control plane nodes, across two sites. What we recommend is, in order for you to do this, you need to have it in a very specific kind of configuration. So your control plane for your Kubernetes clusters needs to be in one site. However, it can be any site, right? Either site A or site B, but all the nodes has to be together. Same, likewise for the supervisor control plane. those VMs needs to be on a single site.
Right.
Okay. So what you need to do is basically uses the host affinity rule. You can do it on your VMs and then pin it to a particular site. Okay.
Yeah.
You need to create a custom vSAN Shrestha policies where you actually set the site disaster tolerance level to dual site mirroring and also force provisioning enabled. As vSAN Shrestha policy is a requirement for content libraries and the supervisor itself, your vSAN Shrestha need to be enabled first, then you can configure the supervisor.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so let's proceed to the last update, which is the local consumption interface. Yeah, so this is the LCI, and this is the UI that you get to see in vCenter, where you can consume all the different kind of workloads like VM service, TKG service, as well as the network services and storage services as well. So yeah,
this is also a feature that is only available on VCF 5.2, right?
Correct. Yes.
So then, what is the difference between LCI and CCI? CCI we just saw earlier. When will our customer use CCI, and when would they use LCI?
Yeah. So if you look at it, right, I think both. If you look at the interface, it look very similar. I think it's just different ways of consuming. So if you are already Aria automation, you want it for global management, you want the governance that comes with it, then yeah, go with the CCI integration with Aria or VCF automation. However, if you just need a quick wave to get your developers or consumers introduced to supervisor services, new way of consuming the workloads, then yeah, use the LCI that is available in the vCenter.
Right. So the other thing is, if the customer is not using Aria automation at the moment, they can straight away use LCI to do the cluster management, right? So that could be another use case. Yep.
Exactly. Yes.
Got it.
Yep. All right. So let's take a look at how it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing first, again, we need to, like the CCI with Aria, we need to talk about the workload management supervisor services first. So same thing. It is the same CCI service. Okay. So if you look at it, when I click on manage versions, so previously I was showing you the 0.0, correct?
Correct.
And now if you can see that I have actually installed a 1.0 consumption interface.
Right.
Okay. So this new consumption interface, maybe I should click on the link and show it to you first.
Yeah.
Okay. So in this new CCI service, supervisor service, it actually provides both, right? It provides the LCI, and it also provides the CCI in the Aria automation integration.
Right. Okay, so this is just one install that will actually provide both features, yeah?
Yes, correct. Yes. So this one itself, it provides two capability. One is with the Aria integration, and one with the LCI. Right? This is just for your information. Yeah.
Cool.
Now, once you have this being activated on your supervisor, okay, if you click on the namespace now, right, you can see that under resources. So normally you have summary, right, where you manage your VM classes, add the content library, add permission and things like that. So if you go to resources, you get to see this UI now. Okay.
Right.
So previously, if you have watched our videos, is most of the time, without the CCI, we actually use this CLI, right, kubectl to consume all these services. But now you can actually use the UI in vCenter, vSphere client to consume it now.
I didn't remember. Did we have this resource tab even before, or is it just a new addition?
Yeah, I think this is just added.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Yeah. So now let's start consuming it. Okay. And I will start off with a virtual machine. Okay. And I'll create a virtual machine. And you can see here that, okay, I have a VM image. I will just use this. And select a VM class. I will use a best effort small. All right. And you can select your storage class. Okay. So you can do advanced settings. So what I'm going to do is, in advanced setting, you can actually attach a volume if you want to, your SSH public keys. Okay. I'm going to use a network service, right? So load balancer. I'm going to have SSH and port 22. And it will actually expose into port 22. Edit. Save. And yeah, so same as the CCI integration with Aria, you can see that I'm actually building the YAML file on the right over here, right?
Yes, right.
It's actually very similar. And yeah, you can actually put in a cloud init. So I've actually prepared a cloud init here. So I'm going to just copy and paste this cloud init over here. Okay, so this will actually set some password for logins and things like that. So once you are done, okay, you can actually deploy the virtual machine. So you can see that it actually create the secret. It actually creates the virtual machine itself. All right. So I'll let it create by itself. And likewise, like I have already one that's been created and I'm going to show you how you can actually access it once it's done. So I have this FB2N VM service in a different namespace, basically I can click on it. I did basically the same thing, select the same class, and then I have some network services being configured as well. So we can click on the network. You can see that I actually expose port 22. Very similarly, I will, what we call it, go back to the namespace. Okay, I want to open a web console. Okay.
Yeah.
So click on the open web console and wait a while. You need to generate it. Okay. Yep. So you can go onto the cloud console and I can actually put in my username and password. Yep. So this is the login to that VM. Okay. And yeah, so let me exit it. And then now I try the SSH. Okay. So I forgot to copy the external address. Let me
the load balancer address. Yeah,
let me go back to the services network. Okay, and you need to use the external address to access it. So this is the one.
Right.
Okay, this is the one. Let me copy it. Okay, and then I will start. Yeah, I will start SSH to the external IP, right? And then put in the password again. You can see that it's the same virtual machine, right?
Yeah, cool.
Okay, so I can also create a TKC clusters from the UI itself. So again, I'm going to click on the other namespace. Now I'm going to create a TKC cluster, right?
The same steps like how we did earlier, right?
Yeah, you can see the same UI, right? Yeah, so I'm going to specify the name and I'm going to create a new version. Hey, you can see that the 1.30 is available now, right?
Yeah, so, that's the one from earlier. Yeah.
Let me take a look. Okay, let me get TKR. See now, it's available now, right?
Right.
So
a while
when it takes a while, but when I didn't have to upgrade the supervisor cluster, and I also didn't have to upgrade the vCenter, and now I have 1.30 available, and now I start consuming it, and have Entria, okay, and I'm going to select the control plane where I'm going to choose best effort small, okay, and yeah, I'm going to use the Photon OS. All right, next I will have the worker pool, and I will choose best effort medium, okay, for it, and maybe I'll three, just 2 worker nodes, okay. Next, and yeah, same thing, right? The YAML file is on the right.
Yep. Good stuff. So everything is just there, right in front of us in the vSphere client itself. This is really neat.
Yeah. So you can see that it's being triggered with the latest version of Kubernetes 1.30, right?
Excellent.
And yeah, I didn't have a previous version, but you can see that even this cluster itself, it's kind of a latest one, right? Let me see. Yeah, okay, maybe I'll just show you. I'll log in and show you the nodes itself, right? So basically what you can do, like very similarly, you can, let me click on the cluster itself. Okay, you can actually download the kubeconfig file. Okay, so I've downloaded it over here. You can see this one.
Yeah.
And then let me see whether I can just, I can use kubectl, kubeconfig, specify the namespace port, all right? And I can get nodes. Yeah, so the cluster is ready. You can start consuming it, spin up new application on it.
Excellent, man. Really nice.
Yeah, so that's it.
Thanks, Vincent. Your demo was excellent as always. I really appreciate you taking the time and walking us through it step by step, man. Really, really great.
Thank you, man. As I mentioned, I really enjoy sharing all this different technologies and doing all these demos, right? Yes. Really fun time doing all this with you. Yeah.
Man, we show all the cutting edge technologies that's coming straight from our VMware product team, right? This is really great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and everyone, that's the wrap for our Kubernetes in and on VCF series. Yeah, and like I said, I really want to extend a huge thank you to everyone who has been following us since the beginning of episode 1. And we hope you find our content informative and helpful, and that you will be able to apply the knowledge that you have gained in your own VMware Cloud Foundation and Tanzu implementations. And Vincent, I really want to express my gratitude to you, man. Your contribution to this series is awesome, and it's been an absolute pleasure collaborating with you over the past 6 episodes.
Yeah, thank you for your kind words, and yeah, thank you to all the audience that has been following us so far, right? And yeah, thank you so much for watching.
Awesome, man. And for our audience, we are not saying goodbye just yet. So stay tuned for our next series in Kickstart VMware Cloud Foundation Project Series, where I'll be joined by many other subject matter experts from VMware, and we'll have many more exciting content in store for you. So be sure to tune in. And thanks again, everyone. Until next time, take care and have a great day. We'll catch
Thank
you
you.
all in the next series.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.